Okay, we are back for episode three of Loki. All right, Suge is back. Thanks for coming back to the show. We're going to break down this episode, and I'm going to brag about how I was right on some things. And
I saw Dave on say that. What were you right about? I don't remember exactly.
So when I said I thought that Morbius was a variant.
Mobius.
Yes, you did
Mobius.
say that.
I said Morbius. Mobius. Yeah, Mobius was a variant.
Yeah.
So,
Mobius,
we'll get into that. I guess
It seems like we just got into it. So, that was about halfway through the episode.
I know.
This one's called Lementis.
Well, did we just spoil our spoiler review?
Right. Well, this episode was a lot of people, this is what I hate sometimes about fandom. It's like they come up with these terms and they're like, it's a filler episode. No, we got backstory. We got big revealance about certain things we were like thinking of theory wise, but we got these big reveals to us.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of character development.
That's what happens in those filler episodes is they develop characters and develop relationships between the characters, and that's what makes the other stuff more meaningful when it does happen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly, and you got a lot of some stuff from Loki that's very powerful. When he talked about his mother, you find out that Sylvie, she didn't really know her mom, and she taught herself magic. So this is like opens the doors for a lot of things coming up in this next couple episodes. And then if you watched interviews with Tom Hiddleston, he talks about how 4 and 5 are his favorite episodes. Okay. So this feels like 4 and 5 should have actually been a one part, 2-part. Right. And so if that's the case, the second part's going to be really good and probably going to have a lot of action and probably some big things happen. So fans need to calm down with this whole, it's a filler episode. Like, no, you got a lot of things out of this episode. Big things, huge. Like Jose just said, Sylvie literally tells Loki, they're all variants. Yeah. And you're like, wait, what? So then now you've got to figure out, okay, so what is this person's motivation now? That's why when we saw with Morbius, when he talks about the jet ski, you know what that means? He was probably jet skiing or somewhere in his life, jet skis meant something to him.
So all right. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a quick recap of the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No. That was perfect. We'll do a quick recap and then we'll get into some theories because I looked at some other videos and read some stuff real quick. So that's kind of shaping my theory of what's going on a little bit, but yeah, this is gonna be interesting. So starting out, picked up where it left off. They end up going back to what's that area called?
TVA.
The TVA.
They end up going back to TVA, and they get into a fight with some of the guards, and then Loki shows up and starts fighting Sybil and Sylvie. I call her Silver. I keep calling her Silver. Sylvie. Yeah. So him and Sylvie get.
You want to call her Anderson Silva?
That's yeah. So him and Sylvie get into it, and then they end up teleporting to Lementis, which is the name of the episode. So it turns out that's going to be another disaster. She lets them know that's the biggest disaster possible that you could have teleported to, and everything is going to blow up, right? The moon's going to crash into that planet. Mm-hmm. So they're just trying to figure out how to get off of there because the device that they use to teleport there is broken or it's out of battery and they need to charge it. So they're looking for something to charge it with. And then that's where they get kind of, it slows down from there and they kind of get to know each other a little bit. But I think that was the best part of the episode was them having that conversation with each other,
Absolutely. And they're going through some of the towns. The towns are deserted because everybody knows that, the moon's about to hit the planet. So, everybody's kind of on the run. There's an arc that people are trying to get onto that's only letting wealthy people on. So, you have that kind of chaos going on. You have an appearance by, one of the people who's like, oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to hole up in my house, That seems kind of funny. She hit him with. I mean, it looked like kind of the equivalent of a shotgun, but non-lethal, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Loki was trying to, play some. He tried to appear as her, I guess, long lost husband, and that didn't really go well for him. He got blasted in the chest.
Yeah.
But yeah, they find their way onto the arc, and they're trying to get off, and eventually, they're talking for a while, or this is the train ride to the Ark. I'm sorry, not the Ark.
Yeah.
The train ride. They're talking, and then a little later on, Loki gets a little drunk, starts making a scene, and so people are noticing them. Kind of realize that they're not supposed to be there. They don't have tickets to be on that train, and they get thrown off the train. Right?
Yeah.
They had mentioned before that the Ark it doesn't make it off of the planet, and this is an apocalypse, and they had said in a previous episode that the variants don't show up in those times because you can't change those. It always happens. Everybody gets wiped out. And they said, yeah, okay, the Ark doesn't make it off, but hey, it's never had us on it, right? So we're gonna try and get on the Ark and see if we can get it off the planet and survive. But they never actually make it. Like I said, they got thrown off the train. They try to make it any other way they can. Before they get there, they see the Ark take off and it gets destroyed.
Yeah,
and that is the end of the episode there.
Yeah, so that's a quick recap, and now we can get into some theories. Well, I mean, let's break down the two main reveals, right? So I mean, and this is something that it's going to get talked about. I'm sure. I mean, I haven't really looked on the internet, but I'm sure it's going to get talked about, and that deals with Loki's sexuality, right? Like he reveals that he's bisexual, right? Which that's not really a surprise if you're being honest. Like I mean, it's one of those things. Like I mean, you don't really think about it for superheroes, but like for his character, like like he's such a complicated character, already, and like for him to like reveal that, it's just like, I mean, nothing surprising. If he tells you anything, like it's not surprising. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, okay, but it's interesting that you learn something more about him, and it makes you wonder. Okay, he has some love interests out there. You know what I mean? Like, or love interest. So I wonder, like, do they make an appearance at some point? And Sylvie too, because he kind of said, like, I suspect you're the same way, and she didn't deny it, and she said she has somebody back in her timeline, her home world, or whatever. So you learn a little bit more about the characters personally. Like you said, you learn about the relationship with their prospective mothers. Sylvie didn't really have a relationship. She didn't really know her mother that well. Although I feel like she didn't really tell the whole story there, right? Like, maybe she did. Yeah. So I mean, that was interesting. And then of course, the big reveal is that all of the agents are former variants or variants, and it seems like they don't realize it. So the question is, how did they all become agents, and how come they don't realize that's what they were? That's how they started out.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the episode, we should have known that obviously they're all variants, or some. They're not just created because Mobius talks about it. I was just created for this, and in the beginning, when you see her doing the enchantment of the Minimum woman's mind, it's a memory. So we should have known it from the beginning of that. But yeah, you talk about how they're not variants. That I possibly think now when they get judged that they're taken and they have their mind wipes and they're turned into the agents now, Minutemen, agents or whatever. And so that's a possibility. Another possibility is they're just plucking people out of time that causes problems, and then they remove their memory or whatever. Going back to the sexuality of Loki, it says that he's fluent because he's able to change it to a female, change it to a male, change it to things. So that makes sense. The reveal that he's bisexual, no problem with it. Hey, you're into what you're into, so it's cool. He taught you, and you're right, Jose. We didn't know he had a love interest, so that's kind of cool to kind of get that perspective and see. And like I said, there's a lot of lines in here that are not. They act like throwaway lines, but they eventually come up again. So that could have been that's possibly going to be down the road something very important, which ties me back to my theory of Loki sacrificing himself, which then causes the multiverse, thinking he's doing it. He sacrifices himself, dies, but instead of it reversing the effects, it actually makes the multiverse or whatever, how they want to do it. but you know that it makes it more possibly that's a reason why that happens, or you know what exactly. A couple things I had a problem with in the beginning of this episode was one that where the lady shoots Loki and Sylvie. It was kind of like, what was the point of that? And we're gonna come back to that. She's obviously some kind of important, so maybe in the next episode we come back to her and she helps him somehow. But if it was just for no reason, that's kind of weird. The train part did take me out of the episode a little bit, not too much. I'm not talking about when they were talking, but just how they got on, and it was kind of like sloppy to me. But I was okay with it. Like, it doesn't take me out of it doesn't make me hate the episode, but I was just like, okay, there's more character development, which I'm fine with. But it was a little sloppy and everything like that, a little too like convenient, things like that. So I was like, okay, whatever. They nerfed Loki though. He did something in this episode I had never seen him done, where he's with a building falling and he just stops it and then he reverses it.
Yeah, I never seen that before. And I had to rewind it because I thought, did somebody else stop it? You know, and like they didn't know what's going on. They ran away, and I was like, wait, what happened there? And I saw him do that. I'm just like, I never seen that before. But I will say this: after them having a conversation about their powers, it made me realize Loki can do a lot more. It all, you know, like every version of Loki probably can do something different. It all depends on how they were brought up, right? Mm-hmm. Because when she said, "Hey, like, you know, how do you do the stuff that you do?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, she can't do that." Yeah. And he's asking her, "Well, how do you do that?" She's like, "I had to teach myself that." So she like the, you know, what he can do, his abilities. I mean, it could be anything. Now, him being able to just doing it all of a sudden, it's just like, well, you've never done that before. Like, when did you start doing that? You know?
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty strong, but I don't remember him just stopping a building like that.
Yeah, me neither.
Sorry, Brodny. Sorry, Brodny. Go ahead.
No problem. That to me, like, just going back to what you were saying about the scene with the woman shooting both of them, you know, at her house, and you know, them getting on the train because Loki had you know, dressed up like one of the guards, and then Sylvie kind of, you know, controlled his mind to make him say what they wanted him to say, and they, you know, to let him pass without tickets. And I think that both of those scenes really were just kind of, you know, just to illustrate what you're talking about right now with the different Lokis having all these different powers and just their different styles, right? Because, you know, he talking about, oh, you know, diplomacy is better than you know, brute force sometimes. And, you know, he went, he tried his, or she went and she tried her way. She kicked in the door. She got shot in the chest. So he's like, oh, I'm going to try my way. Didn't work either. You know, and then they went to the train. He tried to, you know, trick the guard, and it was sort of working, but not really. And then she jumped in with her way, you know, and they kind of learned to work together there.
Yeah.
And I think also it kind of ties into what I feel like is going to be the main takeaway from this series for me, is that they are prepping Loki. I mean, maybe not necessarily Tom Hiddleston. You know, we don't know if he's going to be back in that role, but prepping that character for a major role in the next phase as a hero. Yeah. Because you look at the, you know, what's going on in the show and what it's about. Like, everybody in the show is kind of out of place. Like, they're not where they belong. They don't know themselves. Like, everybody at the TVA, they're all variants. They don't know it, right? All the variants who show up, you know, they're plucked out of time. They don't have a place anymore, right? Sylvie was just created to be, you know, as a kind of a vessel for Loki. So she's trying to find herself. Loki, in the first couple of episodes, they're showing him, you know, his memories and some of his future and everything. And now, even in this episode, he's learning about a different side of himself, interacting with Sylvie. And I think, you know, it's going to be just kind of a journey for him, you know, kind of figuring out what's important, because, you know, when he was talking with Mobius, he doesn't really know why he wants to be the, you know, the little king of everything, right? Like, he doesn't understand why he wants that. That's just what his motive, what his goal has been. And I think by the end of the series, he's going to kind of, you know, figure out what's important to him, and that's going to be what he's fighting for throughout the phase 4 in the movies. And he's just going to be on the side of the heroes is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but I think what's going to happen is it's not going to be Tom Hiddleston. It's actually going to be Sylvie doing it as the new Loki. I have a theory about her showing up in a certain movie. One of the other things that was kind of weird, and I got real disappointed. No, I think she's going to show up in Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's gonna show up in Love and Thunder to tell Thor about the next big bad.
Yeah,
hey, I'm your brother Loki, right?
Yeah. Like, but
yeah, okay.
when they throw Loki off the train, as powerful as he is, how does he just get thrown off the train? Like I was confused. He's like, oh, just throw him off. Like he just blasted somebody, but you can just pick him up and throw him off the train. Like, But yeah, no, I actually totally agree with you, Rodney, when it comes to setting up a new version of Loki. Mm-hmm. I think this is the springboard, because I was talking to Chris Lopez today, who I do a show with, and we were talking about how it's crazy how Loki's going to springboard into like the multiverse, and it's gonna be the ramifications of what happens in the show to spring what happens in Doctor Strange, what springs what happens in Spider-Man. Like the rumors are that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in that movie.
Yeah.
And, even though they're denying it, we know the villains are from their movies. So that being a possibility, it's kind of crazy that this TV show is going to springboard that. So I want to see how they do it. It's going to springboard what happens in Doctor Strange and, how he's trying to fix it. And I think it's gonna springboard into Love and Thunder with Thor, where Thor's gonna, because it would make sense of how much he's hurt that Loki died, that another version of him shows up to warn him about this next big threat and how that relationship would work, and then also too, because I don't know if you guys know this, Kevin Feige said today the last movie in Phase 4 is the Fantastic Four. There is no Avengers movie. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's no Avengers right now. If you think about it, Tony Stark's dead. Captain America is old. Falcon Winter Soldier or Captain America, Sam Wilson's version is now just getting in with the government's Winter Soldier. Everybody. So there's no actual Avengers. Yeah. So this might springboard, and even with the show, might cause what, because I've heard people talk about it. Maybe there has been the Fantastic Four in this universe, but what happens in Loki or happens in Doctor Strange sets off the chain reaction of how they got their powers, or they've had their powers, but in a different universe, different timeline, and now they're brought into this timeline, and that's how we get the Fantastic Four. So I love the fact that it's going to springboard into so many new things for Marvel.
And wasn't Sylvie a part of like the Young Avengers at one point in the comics as well? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, she's part of Young Avengers. She was part of a group that Norman Osborn ran. It wasn't the Dark Avengers, but it was another version. I was talking today, imagine in a Multitude of Madness Doctor Strange movie, all this happens, and then just as a thing, he opens a portal and you see the X-Men, or you see, whatever. Or what happens in Spider-Man at the end of the movie, you see a black suited Spider-Man, and it's Miles Morales. I can't even say his name right now. But yes, Miles Morales swinging, or you see him standing there. Like it's just going to open up so many possibilities that I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see.
That would be kind of a Phase 4 snap moment, right? You see the X-Men or Miles Morales or something like that.
Yeah. And you see the X-Men, you see Miles Morales or whatever, and then Fantastic Four is going to be the last movie, and then that sets up this big arc for the next phase. Because if you think about it, when Phase 2 was around, it set up Ultron. Even though Ultron wasn't the greatest villain, it set up that big arc, and then it set up the Phase 3 so well, where we got so much with Civil War and everything. So I'm glad they're not going to make it. They're not going to we're going to do 3 movies and then it's an Avenger movie right away. I like the fact we're not going to
take your time. Yeah.
Take your time and get all these new characters acclimated, because we're no longer going to have, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and possibly Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson. Black Widow is a prequel, so we know she's dead, so she's no longer going to be in it. How long until Chris Hemsworth is like, I'm done too? So it sets up so much, and I'm like I said, I'm super excited about it, because it's just going to set up so many new things that I never thought I was going to see.
Yeah, because what you got? They're doing it the way you got to do it, right? When you're building a new story arc, you can't keep just pulling from the old story and characters, trying to bring back that old nostalgia.
You don't want Luke Skywalker and Leia and everybody in the finale of your new Star Wars trilogy.
No, right. You don't want that. You want to introduce new characters, take your time building it, and what they're doing with these Disney Plus shows to develop these characters is great, right? And I mean, we mentioned this in the last video. They're doing those little things to where when the movies come and it's all action and all these things are happening, you don't have to question it. You already know what sparked it, right? You already know where it originated from. So, like you said, I don't mind these so-called filler episodes. Like, you're learning about who these characters are, what their motivation is. So when they do things later on, you understand where it comes from. So
sure.
You know, the relationships are already built up, the characters are already developed, and so all that action that comes in those movies is going to be a lot more moving. It's going to have more meaning to everybody watching.
Yeah.
The only question go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this, and also too, if you think about it, it's a cheaper way to do it. They don't have to make movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we made 3 TV shows that one sets up Multitude of Madness. Falcon Winter Soldier sets up something down the line with them, and now Loki sets up this, all in TV shows.
Yeah.
You didn't have to pull out all this budget for a movie, and you remember we still have like Miss Marvel coming out for Disney Plus.
Yep.
We have She-Hulk coming out for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And they've already said all these are going to be Moon Knight. They already said these are all going to be part of the MCU. So okay, we're going to set these lower characters through TV. We're going to have the big characters, Eternals, Fantastic Four, all these. Shang-Chi, they just released a new trailer today that looks badass.
Yeah.
We're going to set up all these guys, and then we're going to have them all together by Phase 5. I hope I make it that long to see this, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, the only thing that I had a big question about with this episode has to do with the variants. The TVA all being variants. And my thing is like, okay, you say maybe they kind of wipe their memories, right, of them being who they were prior to converting them into agents. But then my question comes is like, how do they, like, what prompts them to bring over other variants and turn them into agents, right? And how do you not know that everyone else is a variant? So it's like, every time you bring somebody in, everybody gets their memory wiped again. And I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but like the thing that kind of just occurred to me watching it is like we talked about in the last video, Mobius is just very different than everybody else at the TVA. Even though he's saying, oh yeah, he doesn't have the memories and he doesn't know why he likes jet skis, but he acts very differently to everyone else. He's kind of almost overly familiar with some of the people that he was overly familiar with, the judge and everything. And so I kind of think that he is going to end up like they're maybe setting him up to be one of the timekeepers, in the series or something like that, or the head of the TVA or something like that. Because I don't know, like, what the explanation is behind how to convert people if none of you know that you're all variants, right? You don't know that. There's nobody telling you to do that. You don't know that the people who are converted after you are variants. So I'm not sure what the explanation is there.
The only thing I can think of is when they judge them and they take them away, they may go put them, and it's the timekeepers that do it. They don't ever actually see it.
Yeah,
it's just the timekeepers that do it. So they take them thinking they're getting deleted and whatever,
and then they come back as like a different person almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I don't know. We're probably gonna find out. We'll probably find out in either the next episode or the episode, because next episode's 4. Mm-hmm. You're figuring 6 is gonna be really long. So 5 is probably where we're gonna find out we'll find out something big in 6, or it's going to be a big climactic. So I think 5 is where we're going to find out what actually happened. Is there more than one timeline and we've been lied to? When they talked about the Secret Wars in that video, what exactly is the timekeeper? What are they trying to do? One thing I said was the timekeeper said, and Mobius said it, they know the beginning, the end, the middle, all of it. What if they know Loki's the key to possibly beating them? So that's why they're trying to, stop him.
Yeah.
Because the judge says, they're keeping a very close eye on this situation. Well, why? Why would they?
Yeah.
So they know something that we don't know. We'll figure that out.
Now, In terms of Mobius, like this, I looked this up. I saw somebody referencing this earlier. They're saying the soda that he's drinking in it was episode 1. I forget the name of it, but
from like the 90s, right?
Yeah, it's from the 90s, and it made me think like, okay, well, you have that, and then he's big into jet skis. He might be from that that era. Like that might be when they plucked him out of. And what's the importance of the 90s? Like, why would they make a big deal about the 90s? And it makes me think of Captain Marvel, because that was set in the 90s. So I wondered, like, is he a character that may have been in that timeline, or somebody that we kind of overlooked that they end up plucking from there, Yeah. So
I mean, so much going on. Like, it's crazy because if you think about at the end of Spider-Man, we had the Skrulls out in space. So that could possibly be the Skrull invasion, which was another version of the Secret Wars, where like they became, one of them was Captain America, and you didn't find out till later.
Yeah.
And you're right. What if he's somebody important from the 90s? I jokingly told Chris today, I go, what if he's an alternate version of Nick Fury? What if he was, which would just be funny. But I mean, remember Nick Fury back in the day when the movie Nick Fury came out with David Hasselhoff? He was white. The original version was white. So what if he was that? But I don't think so. I was just jokingly saying it. But he could be possibly just another important character. Could be a hero. Could be a villain. Could be, we don't know. Yeah. And so it'd be very, very interesting to see where they take it. He could just be a regular guy. What if he just, they pulled him from the timeline, he did something, and they just pulled him, and he was just a regular guy.
Yeah.
And that's not the main focus, which could be a possibility. Because remember, there's a character or an actor, a famous actor, I don't know his name. It's but he's in the show and he hasn't shown up yet. A lot of people believe he's King Loki, or the real the big bad. That is interesting. So I looked up the character cast, and okay, so it's Richard E. Grant is the actor.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a famous actor. He hasn't shown up yet. So what if he is a version of Loki? What if he's a version of Loki, or what if he's he's the big bad?
Right.
But I was looking at the thing, and like Mark Ruffalo's in the show. Jeremy Renner, Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says this guy.
It's gonna get very interesting now that I'm looking at all these people that are supposed to be in it.
Richard E. Grant's supposed to be in 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, what if is Lementis going to be the event that kind of that opens up all of the kind of the multiverse? Like, they're there. It's the big time. It's the big apocalypse that the worst one out there. You can't change those things, but they're stranded on that planet. So however they do it, when they find a way off of that planet, is that going to be creating another branch, and that's where everything starts to spiral out of control?
I think maybe TVA just shows up. That's my feeling. They're going to get there and get to Sylvie and try to interrogate her, and then going to delete her.
How would they know they're there though? Because you go to the apocalypse and that doesn't show up,
because Mobius knows
that's the pattern.
That's the pattern. He knows that's the pattern. Whether or not they figure out that, I don't know.
To me that would be kind of convenient that they look through all the apocalypses and they happen to figure out it's that one in time.
Not only that, all the branches are spreading out right now, so they're dealing with that. So there's going to be an issue. But I'm just looking at the cast, and like Richard E. Grant doesn't have a character name, and there's also a woman actor named Tara Strong, who doesn't also have a name under a character under her. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
That means that those are going to be two big, two big introductions of characters. So that's actually very, very interesting. And the fact that you see Jeremy Renner, Crossbones, Valkyrie, and Bruce and Mark Ruffalo, so we're going to see some sort of Avengers in this show.
Yeah.
Where I don't unless it was just that first scene.
Right, and that's what I was about to say. It could be that when they were showing all that at the beginning, and maybe they were in one of the scenes and you just didn't really notice them, but they have to put them in the credits.
Yeah. And I'm curious. Like, I'm looking now. I don't see him as being credited in Loki, but I wonder if Jonathan Majors makes an appearance at the end as Kang the Conqueror, right? Because we talked about maybe he's one of the timekeepers, that they reference, and I know he's going to appear in the new Ant-Man. I know that's already been revealed, but maybe he makes a surprise appearance at the very end of Loki, as one of the timekeepers.
Or a mention.
Yeah,
like he doesn't actually have to appear, but they make a mention of him because like we talked about last time, the Judge is a love interest in the comic books of Kang the Conqueror. So it seems like she's protecting somebody, or because the way she talks and the way how she's saying things, she might be protecting Kane, or she's taking orders from Kane. There's also Sylvie might be taking orders from Richard E. Grant. So there's just a lot of things, and it's exciting because you don't know. So I like that the show's taking us, and we can theorize all day, but it's taking us on a path that we just don't know what's going to happen.
Because there's so many threads that they could pull from. They could take it in any number of directions. Really.
Yeah. And a lot of people are saying the reason why we're not getting the Spider-Man trailer right now because that spoils what happens in the show. Because if you look back, and we were talking about it today, Doctor Strange was supposed to come out first, and then I think it would have been this show, and then Spider-Man. So they rearranged it. So now, what does that mean? Is the big reveal in this show not that impact on Doctor Strange, but it's very impactful on Spider-Man. So that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be dope to see what they do and where they go from here. I just hope I trust Marvel that they're gonna do really good by this.
The way they're doing this, like, man, like they do such a great job with this whole universe, because it's like what they did in this last story arc. Like, how do you top that, right? Like, how do you top how it ended? With Endgame, like with Infinity War and Endgame, but by just kind of slowly giving you crumbs, saying, hey, look, we're gonna be dealing with the multiverse in this new one, and it's not going to just be something just ridiculous. Like, we're going to take our time, like, kind of pushing it out to you, explaining it. So by the time they really ramp it up, you're going to have a clear understanding of how the multiverse works.
That's always the answer for that kind of stuff, is how do you top this really great thing that you did by not trying to top it right away.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're doing something completely different, and they're slowly teasing it out, and it's building intrigue, right? Because now that's what we're talking about. Like, well, how's this going to tie into this? Or, what if we get this? What if we get that? Nobody's comparing this to the Infinity War story arc at all. This is something completely different. So, I mean, great storytelling.
I know, Jose, you have kids, but there's a Avengers. I think it was called Avengers Assemble, which was a cartoon, and one of the story arcs in it, which would be dope to see, because I feel the big bad when all this is ended over, not in this phase, but the mark they want to get to is eventually Galactus. That's a big bad. But one of the story arcs in that TV show was with Kang the Conqueror was he went to Avengers Tower and was able to change time, and he wiped the Avengers out. The Avengers that were left were all Wolverine, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, the unknown versions of the Avengers who come together and defeat Kane and then bring the Avengers back. How dope would it be that in Phase 5, Kane wipes out all the Avengers, Captain Marvel, all of them, and now you have the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man that has to try to bring them back. And that would be dope. And then you bring them back, and maybe you bring them all back to fight Galactus as the next big bad. So there's a lot they can do.
Galactus and his heralds or something like that.
Yeah. And because that was a storyline in that cartoon too. So, but what I like what Marvel's doing is they're picking and choosing and putting things together and making a new story. Even though I love the comics, they're switching it up just enough to make it more fresh and new. So I'm cool with that. Like, I'm fine with that. As long as you're coming up with new things. It's cool. It's like dope. And maybe Galactus isn't the big bad. Maybe it's something else. But you see it and you go, man, okay, we could get Secret Wars. Secret Wars is alternate versions of each other fighting each other. Like how dope would that be? Yeah. Or you get the multiverse now. So now you possibly can see a Miles Morales. You can see at the end of Morbius, Blade sitting there watching Morbius because he's a vampire. You could see Spider-Man,
Blade too.
Yeah, but I've been hearing that's going to be a show too. But then I thought it was going to be a movie, so I don't want to.
Yeah, they said it was a movie initially. I mean,
Blade.
People are saying it's going to be a show. But the fact you have Morbius and Vulture's in that movie, so that's connected to Spider-Man. And Blade was in the '90s show was in the Spider-Man where he was chasing Morbius. So what if you had that crossover? You have Morbius, Spider-Man, and Blade. Like how dope would that be? So this is all springboarding from this show because it's going to open up a lot of options. So it's good storytelling. They're doing what they're doing what fans want. But they're giving their idea, their version of it, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else to add to this episode? I think we covered everything.
Yeah, we only covered one episode this time.
Yeah, right. yeah. It's just one. Yeah. And it felt like it went pretty quickly, but I mean that's how they're gonna go. But
yeah, I like these episodes. I like the fact that they're not super long. I feel like 6 is probably gonna be like an hour. It's gonna be a good, it's gonna be a good hour. And I think these next couple episodes are gonna be decently, probably 45 minutes because they've been like what 35 to 40 minutes or.
Yeah, right around there. I think just under 40. I think.
But I think they're really gonna pick up the story these next 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
the only real thing that I did not like about this episode was that Mobius wasn't in it at all, and I really enjoy Owen Wilson playing him. So I'll be happy to see him back. But the episode was very entertaining.
I think he's going to be in the next.
He'll be in the next 3, I believe.
Yeah. So it's going to be like I said, it's going to be real cool to see where they go from here. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited, and look, I enjoyed talking about the show. I think the show is fantastic. It has me intrigued, which I hate to say it. Falcon and Winter Soldier didn't really have me intrigued. WandaVision has some cool moments, but I wasn't really like intrigued, whereas I am with Loki. So
I really, really enjoyed WandaVision. Just watching, Wanda go through all of that, and the grieving process and everything. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, it wasn't a bad show, but it didn't have that kind of it seems like it just didn't have that kind of depth to it,
it's so funny because like we all have like different opinions. Like I like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I like that one better than WandaVision because WandaVision started out really slow to me. Mm-hmm. And I like some of the issues that they touched on in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and just just them developing their characters and their relationship a little bit more, and seeing Bucky just cope with like everything he's dealt with, not just turning from a bad guy to a good guy. Like I like the transition he has to go through, just mentally to turn back to being Bucky again. So that was probably my favorite one. But the funny thing is, I like all 3 of them. And I didn't think I was going to like any of these series. When they first announced it, I was like, I'm not interested in Wanda. I was like, they picked all the characters I don't care about to do these shows.
That's why.
And I like everything that they've done so far. I like all of them. So they're doing a good job.
I have 2 questions for you, and if you're in the chat, you can or comment what you on these 2 questions. What next one are you excited for? And then in the Multitude of Madness, when Doctor Strange
multiverse.
What did I say? Multiverse? I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But multiverse.
Yeah.
If you get to see one character out of all of Marvel, because they pretty much own everything now, what one character would you like to see? It doesn't have to be they're like in like majorly in the movie, but like maybe a portal opens and you see
like
that
a Batman versus Superman type thing. Like somebody pops on screen for a second.
Yeah, like who would you want to see? So, like for me, the next show I'm excited for. I'm actually excited for She-Hulk. I don't know why, but I'm excited for She-Hulk. I'm excited about Miss Marvel, Moonlight. Okay, but She-Hulk is the one I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see what's up with that one. And the one character I would want to see just pop up for a second, and it would be Ghost Rider. Like, how dope would it to see Ghost Rider? Because I that Nick Cage one, that first movie, I liked it, but it wasn't great. Like, it was not good. But the fact that I saw Ghost Rider on screen was dope. Yeah. But to see a version the MCU can make, or Deadpool. Like, for Deadpool to open a portal, you see Ryan Reynolds, and then he like looks at the camera and goes, "Oh, you didn't think I'd be here, huh?" Right. And then like it shuts it. That would be fun. That's
a good question.
That would be dope.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll ask that to the audience. Okay, if there's one character that you would love just to see them just pop up on a screen real quick, like who would it be?